got a little bit of time here today to talk to our partners and customers and really want to talk about the SonicWall Cyber Warranty Program. For those that don't know you, why don't you introduce yourselves and give us just a little bit of your background, please?
Yes, well, I'm Kirsten Bay. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Cysurance. We do warranty-backed insurance programs like the one we have with SonicWall. And my background is finance and cyber and insurance. And we brought these programs together to help organizations understand how their investments in security programs actually mitigate and lower risk, and how we can help manage those financial benefits that go behind it to create true, holistic, resilient programs.
Awesome. And for those of you that don't know me, my name is Michael Crean, and I am the Senior Vice President and General Manager of all things managed security services here at SonicWall. So my responsibility is the security operations centers, the MDR offerings, the MXDR offerings, and just happy to be here today to talk about why these two companies have come together and how it really benefits you and what you can expect in this relationship. So let's go ahead and get this part started and move on. So I think we all know that the threat landscape is getting faster, it's accelerating, it's happening more frequently, and they're really starting to target the SMBs with some heavy-hitting efficacy. Tell me a little bit more about what you're seeing on that insurance side.
Well, we're seeing a couple of interesting trends. We, for a while, had seen a small dip in ransom attacks. What we're seeing now are ransom attacks that are becoming more severe, but a little less frequent. So a lot of that we are attributing to some of the lower dwell times, shorter dwell times with some AI capabilities to identify vulnerabilities. So they're allowed to get in, move faster so that there's less time to identify that the threat actors in the environment. So high severity ransom events, but more importantly, or not more importantly, but certainly significantly would be business email compromise events where social engineering or an account takeover that results in social engineering and subsequent financial fraud where there's a wire transfer to a fraudulent entity or individual. And these are the ones I refer to them as cyber muggings. Because the organizations they kind of get caught by surprise. And it's helping organizations understand that when we're looking at cyber resilience and cyber risk and business resilience and business risk, that they're part and parcel of the same thing now. And that when we're looking at business processes, even if it's just pure social engineering, hey, I'm, somebody sending you an invoice, really develop strong internal processes in addition to the technical elements of cyber resilience.
You use the word cyber muggings and you say they get caught by surprise. But is it really getting caught by surprise if it's business email compromise and they're not using MFA? I mean, this isn't a new technology. It's not a new idea. I know that we're an industry riddled with acronyms. And here's that one more acronym, MFA, multi-factor authentication, but this isn't new. This is I'm going to go out on a limb and say we're at least 20 years talking about this now.
It's certainly true. And we see two different things, right? We see the just pure, I'm sending you an email and hoping you accept that invoice and keep rolling along. And to your point, we also see account takeovers where the threat actor gets into the email account, and now we have two problems. One is that the threat actors in the email account wiring their own invoices internally to get money wired out. And then also now we have a disclosure issue because we have to do an investigation. We have to figure out how many emails were touched. Do we have to tell customers or even employees that their personal information was compromised? And so, yes, to your point, I talk about this a lot when we've talked about this a bit ourselves. With this acceleration of AI and attack profiles, people feel like now it's completely intractable. There's no defense. We might as well just throw our hands up and go home. But what it means to me is that the fundamentals, MFA, patching, MFA, patching some more of that, those things matter more now than ever.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And I think, that's kind of the story that told us time. It's the fundamentals that, we get better, faster cars that brake more intelligently for us. They pull us back into the lane when we're swerving out of the lane, but you still have to be an aware driver. You still have to have your fundamentals. You still have to take your driving class. You don't want to be on your phone texting. You don't want to really be doing those things that get you distracted. And I think it's the same way that when we're trying to protect our sensitive, important data. And the SMB has played a little bit of a role of I'm too small. Nobody wants me. I don't have anything of value. And I know that you said ransomware numbers, it was slowing down and maybe even decreasing a little bit. But what we've seen is actually in the SMB space, it seems to be picking up, where the mid-market, large institution, enterprise is doing maybe a little bit of a better job because they're maturing. But the SMB's got to come along for this ride a little bit faster. And fundamentals. I mean, you said it. You said MFA patching, MFA. And, not that there aren't more things that need to be done, but truly in what we see out of the SonicWall Security Operations Center, a lot of these are leading back to those indicators of where that problem came from.
Absolutely true. And it's interesting, I saw a study just the other day where they surveyed SMBs, and 88% of them said that they felt comfortable that they were cyber resilient. And we were pondering is that business resilient, cyber resilient, but it's the same thing, really. And I found it was surprising because also about that same number said that they had experienced a cyber incident of some kind in the past year. And so is it that they manage to survive that with minimal damage, or what is that? And so to your point, creating that awareness of what does that really mean, and you are a target not because someone wakes up in the morning and decides that, but because that net is cast widely enough that they're able to be caught up in it.
Right. So let's keep this party moving. Let's go on to the next. Buying the tools. Because, if you buy one more tool, it's just going to fix the problem. Because why wouldn't it be? Because the manufacturer told you. This idea that you buy this tool from this company and that tool from this company, and somehow you're just putting it all together and you're playing Tetris with them, and it's all magically going to work. I'm not sure that I believe that. What are your thoughts?
No, I fully agree with you. And we talked about this before, right? We talked about completeness, right? And what does that mean? And when we look at it on the insurance side and what creates better results, certainly having good tools helps, right? But having tools is just having a tool. Having attached services, having someone helping to prioritize, and the prioritization piece still to this day is, despite all of the tools, the AI, the everything, trying to help organizations identify with, if you have 2 or 3 things you have to do today, like make sure all of your accounts have MFA on them and it's implemented tomorrow, that these are the things that help organizations become more resilient because they're not focused on the wrong things. And so the holistic / completeness advantage really is what makes this fundamentally different.
Right. Yeah, it's and I think when it comes to these tools is that we get all excited and happy about the shiny new penny. You're really just, hey, I've got this thing, it's going to solve my problem. I'm feeling really good about it. But then nobody's watching it for the 2 a.m. on a Tuesday or the 1 p.m. on a Wednesday. I'm like, it couldn't tell you that there's a problem, just like the alarm on your house. But if nobody's home to hear it, you don't have it connected to a call center, who's really hearing it? So having that integrated program where you're looking holistically, where you're gathering the network logs and the endpoint logs and some of those identity logs and email security and getting them into one place that builds a much cleaner picture. I mean, if you're just looking at the front door of your house and it's the only thing you ever monitor, well, what about the side door? What about the back door? What about the windows? I mean, look, if you've got a 2 or 3 story home or you live in one of those high rises that's behind you in your background there, Kirsten, like probably not going to see Spider-Man scaling those buildings anytime soon and getting in. But if you have ground level entry capabilities and you're not sure that all of them are locked because, hey, your 15-year-old decided for who knows whatever reason that he's got to open those windows because he wants fresh air in the house and he didn't lock it. And then you've gone away for a long weekend. And that's kind of the prevention, detection, and response that we're looking at right now. This idea of the home, you know, individually, the doors, the windows, the dog, the camera, the smoke alarm, the CO2 detection, the water leak detection, individually, they're good. But what happens when they all come together? What happens when they're all hooked up to that call center and somebody is coming through your front door and it's going off? And that call center can see the camera and can see that it looks like, it's not Halloween, but somebody's walking around in your house trying to obscure their face. And your good old trusty dog is losing his mind trying to tell everybody that there is a huge problem. And they can call, whether it's the police or the fire department or an ambulance, to really protect the entirety of the home, because that is true protection, detection, and response.
And there's the other piece of it, which is the vigilance piece, because what threat actors also are trying to do is to exhaust you, right? So if they get the dog to bark and the alarm to go off and this happened and you keep looking around and there's nothing happening, it's like, oh, it's just another false alarm.
Right.
And those are the things that we on our side of the line always try to be really mindful of, is the fatigue element of the alerting. And that's the other piece of the holistic completeness, which is to help identify the alerting and to dial down the noise so that we can be focused on the pieces that really are relevant and matter. And more, that's the improvements that we have made over time, is to be able to get much more effective at that piece to dial down the fatigue element of those alarms.
And that's why you really need an organization like SonicWall, for instance, that can help provide that MXD offering, that can take that fatigue away from you, that it is our job, it's our responsibility, it's our desire to stay awake 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Because I don't know about you, Kirsten, but I don't know a whole lot of businesses that shut their internet off every time that they leave their office, or power down their servers or their workstations. I mean, they leave them on. So if it's on, if it's connected, it's available, and that threat actor can get at it anytime they want to. And you may not be sitting at your desk constantly working, and it's good to have somebody else watching for you.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, as we continue on our journey, moving around that idea of layered security that works together. And this is kind of getting away from that piecemeal idea. Give me some of your thoughts around this.
Well, one of the things that in our studies and looking at our claims activity that we find interesting is in this layered defense model, defense in depth, that we look at what gives you the most bang for the buck, we'll say. And so when we look at things like MFA will reduce attack surface by 88%. But then when you layer on a firewall, managed detection, email security, each one of those then closes that window even more, so that when we get down to having all of these and then maybe even zero trust, that you can get down to 98% efficacy. Now, what's interesting is that if you start with an organization where they have multiple compromised credentials already, that efficacy actually goes up, because now we're able to identify even more effectively how to manage people who might have compromised credentials and threat actor trying to get at them. So this whole piece of it, of that layered risk model, helps organizations become much more resilient. And also the segmentation piece. So being able to look at the segments of the network so that as we get through each one of these categories, we're looking at them distinctly, but also together.
What I can probably hear somebody saying right now, but Michael, I don't have a firewall. How can I have a managed firewall when I don't even have a firewall? I'm a completely remote workforce. Well, the reality is that's becoming more of the norm. And so we're not saying that you have to have the firewall when you don't have anything to put behind the firewall because you don't have any sort of infrastructure. But, take that focus as to where you can put it and get your layering in place. If you are a complete Microsoft or Google Workspace ecosystem, then get heavily focused there. Make sure that you've got that log monitoring. Make sure that you've got all of your policies in place and somebody's auditing and helping you with that. Make sure that Microsoft provides, and not picking Microsoft because I think they're better than anybody else, but when you think about, the email that they provide to lots of businesses out there, they provide a heck of a service. They do provide some email security, but I don't know that that's their primary job. Make sure that you have a good layered email security so that you're protecting the conduit that they're providing you to be able to get information in and get information out. And if you don't have a firewall, let's say you don't have one, well, man, you better really have some good endpoint protection out there and having that managed detection and response on it, because one of those layers of protection that works really well together is now missing. And people are working from home and they might have some IoT things that aren't being patched or kept up to date, which becomes a launch point in their house, which makes some of those attacks just a little bit easier.
Yes, and then we also, related to the cloud, we're seeing now a lot when organizations are caching passwords in their browsers. We're seeing a number of organizations being attacked through that vector where they're popping into the cloud infrastructure from an endpoint because of that caching. So, and people don't even realize that that's happening. And so those are some things to be aware of as well.
I love Google Chrome. I think it's, it does a great job for me. There's a gentleman by the name of Corey Clark who I've worked with for more than a decade, and he calls it his ex-girlfriend. It's like, just can't seem to get rid of her. Even though he calls her his ex, he just can't, because there's constantly a vulnerability. There's one more thing. And they do make it easy to store your passwords, but it is incredibly dangerous. Stay away from caching the passwords. Stay away from Google Chrome or Firefox or whomever it is, or Edge. Use a password manager. Use something that's purposely built that will take care of that problem for you, that will do a better job of protecting you, especially because you, as the expert just said, you're starting to see that become a little bit more frequent.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, let's continue to move along, please. Well, I think this one really speaks to you because I am definitely not a security underwriter.
Well, this is, as you and I started my introduction, the thing that Cysurance was founded upon, which is the idea that we want to be security first. And what measures are we putting in place with the fundamental security posture that helps change the threat risk, the threat curve, and the dynamic for being able to manage severity. And this is the key thing. It's not trying to get to zero. There aren't zero car crashes or zero house fires, but we're able to reduce those exposures in a way that allows us to understand that when we have things like MDR, firewall, email security, that those now are reducing the risk enough that we can then change the dynamic of how we're underwriting these types of risks for organizations buying these solutions. And so when we see the lower cyber risk, and we've been able to quantify this over a number of years, that when we then put this warranty product in place, which is looking at specific events and configurations of firewalls or implementations of MDR that we know are effective in partnership with you, it allows us to change how much we can charge for insurance. It allows us to understand that when we validate that those products are in place, most often we can maintain the risk within that warranty layer, meaning that we can pay for things like deductibles, we can pay for out-of-pocket expenses. We may not need to trigger the insurance policy at all to have it pay, because we're able to understand what that stronger security posture does for us in terms of the financial impact of risk. And those are the things that we really wanted to demonstrate in the market, because we want to help organizations understand these investments actually have ROI, which for a long time we always debated, is there such a thing as ROI and an operational cost? But because we're able to move budget around and help organizations recognize what that investment makes, right? It's a business investment. These are the things that are important when we're looking at what does that underwriting mean for security posture.
Yeah, I think the one thing for me that you said in there is that, getting that ROI. So this partnership was really important to us here at SonicWall, because we were the very first firewall manufacturer that just out of the gate, because you bought our product with services on it, we provided you a $100,000 cyber warranty. That's a really big deal. Now, obviously, there's always a catch, but the catch truly is pretty simple. We've got a set of configuration best practices that we want you to adhere to. We publish it. We make it easy. We're not hiding anything. It's easy to find. It's easy to follow. We've done our best. And if you follow those and there happens to be an event that happens that the firewall can be attributed to that it should have blocked, and it's not going to block everything. If you're using Microsoft 365, here I go back to picking on them or using them as my example, and you have business email compromised, the firewall couldn't defend against that. If your employee is working from home and their laptop gets compromised because they go to a risky website, well, the firewall in your office, again, can't help you with that. So we've got to use a little common sense when we start wondering about what it covers and what it doesn't cover, but it's honestly just the beginning. I'll call it the gateway drug, if you will. We've got you. We've given you the warranty, but you can take that warranty up to $1 million. You can use that to get into our MDR programs, to get into email security, to get into all of these things where it gets really cool, where you can start getting some heavily discounted insurance rates from Cysurance because they know that you're maturing and you've put the right layers of defense in place. You've got the right team backing you. And now all of a sudden you are a much better bet if they're going to go ahead and get you some really great rates out there.
Yes, and we do see events and we pay our claims. But that's the thing, is that we wanted to demonstrate with this program that we're able to reduce the severity of those incidents so that most organizations don't even experience downtime. And that's what really matters in these conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, as we continue our journey today, it's coming back to the idea of better outcomes together. Why don't we talk about what some of the customers are gaining, and then maybe I'll talk about what the channel partners are going to gain.
Mm-hmm. So as we were just talking about, of course, there's the financial backstop. That's really advantageous. But then there's also the layered protection and the prioritization around that. So it helps organizations make more rapid decisioning around what do they need to do to become more resilient, to manage incidents as they're happening, to gain that support. And that really is the thing, particularly in this new world that we're living in with all of these accelerated attacks, shorter dwell times, that it gives a sense of confidence to organizations to understand what's happening to them and how to protect themselves. Because for most companies, they don't have the size of a security organization or a security organization at all who can help protect their organization to make sure they're up and running all the time so that they can do the things they need to do. And those are the outcomes that we're trying to help customers understand, is these are important investments and ones that actually yield results.
Yeah, absolutely. And you talk about the security organization, Kirsten, I don't know about you, but I can't afford a full-time 24/7, 365 security detail around my house. Can you?
Nope, not today.
Nope. No, definitely not today. And so what we're doing is we're trying to make sure with that complete protection that we really give you those validated outcomes. Making sure that our channel partners are getting that gain about that complete value proposition, how we're becoming a natural extension of their team. We're augmenting their force, but we're augmenting them with security professionals, highly trained, highly skilled, really well sought after, because the security market space is booming right now. And it is expensive to hire this type of talent, not alone thinking about how do I do this 24 hours a day? That becomes something that is hugely important in this relationship between our partners in Cysurance and SonicWall, that you now have a fully dedicated security operations center at your disposal, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Doesn't matter what day it is, doesn't matter what holiday it is, there is always somebody there looking out for you and looking out for your customers, making sure that you truly have quantifiable outcomes. How many alerts did we look at? How many did it process? What are we doing with those? How are we continuing to look at the tactics, techniques that are going on out there, and trying to just stay one step ahead of the threat actors in helping you really build a deeper trust with your customers? And I think that's what it's all about for me. They say it's easy to show up on day one, but what does it look like on day 1,287? Are we still doing our job, and are we doing it better? My answer is yes. But what we need to do is we need to prove it to you every day so that you continue down this journey and your customers continue down that journey with you. That's the better together part of this for me.
Absolutely.
Okay. We're kind of getting close to the end here, and so we don't want to keep people too long, but we do have just 2 more slides that I think we want to cover, and it's this is like, it's kind of the show me the money. or the real dollars when you need them?
Yes. So there are a couple of components. When people hear the word warranty, and sometimes I think we have to call it something else, but what that means is that we're providing financial benefit if something doesn't go right. And so that pertains both to firewall and MDR. And MDR is interesting because it's not that something's gone wrong, but that we're able to catch something quickly enough and support the remediation. But what like we've been talking about, what we've been able to learn and demonstrate is that we can do that much more efficiently and effectively with these types of solutions, and we're willing to back that with the financial protection. And so what that means is deductibles and waiting periods are covered. And so many cyber insurance policies have waiting periods of up to 10 hours. So if your business goes down for a period of time, you can't bill, you can't run credit cards, you can't function, you have to wait 10 hours before your insurance coverage starts. So this is a great way to augment that type of situation. In addition to those deductibles, which is different than like a car deductible. If you have a $10,000 deductible, let's say, if you're triggering a ransom portion of your policy, an incident response portion of your policy, each one of those is $10,000. So it can add up pretty quickly. So those filling the gap elements are really critical and essential because most of the time we find that we can keep that incident within the warranty layer. So that means that if you have an incident, you're not triggering a full complement of your insurance program, you're still able to get that financial protection. Of course, the no waiting, the rapid response piece, this is the other element for us that's super critical because what we're able to do is immediately start to respond in partnership with SonicWall, which means that there isn't this gap in time to, I have an incident, now you're waiting for the incident response team to show up, which is really those critical elements of time where you may not be able to recover as rapidly. So that in combination with it's already included in what you have, we embed this with the SonicWall delivery model. So those costs are covered by SonicWall, and then that gives you the confidence that it's there when you need it.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing. Just having it there when you need it is important. You want to make sure that you're covered from top to bottom, making sure that we're trying to look at every angle of possibility that makes you feel like you can sleep comfortably at night, but also continuing to move that business forward with your partner and your customers, because I think that's what they're looking at everybody for. Like we all want to be a part of a pack. At least my opinion on this is that we're kind of pack animals. Nobody wants to be the lone wolf. There are some out there. But me personally, I'd rather be a part of that pack, part of that team, somebody that I know that I can trust on. Because if I have an insurance question, if I have a warranty question, I really don't want to talk to ChatGPT personally. I'd rather just pick up the phone and talk to you because I know that I'm going to get a straight answer.
That's right. And as it relates to the firewall, it's DDoS attacks, unauthorized access, and software exploitation. Can you talk a little bit about what those type of incidents look like and what would trigger the program?
Sure. So, that's the denial of service attack when you talk about that DDoS attack. It's somebody that's trying to basically flood your firewall. It's trying to shut it down. It's trying to make it impossible for you to communicate. These are very typical attacks. Software exploitation, getting around that idea. Look, every piece of software that's created by a man or a woman, we're fallible, we make mistakes, or we don't think there's even a mistake in the software, but some criminal underworld mastermind decides that they want to find a way to exploit something that we never even thought was exploitable. And they'll go ahead and run various different options to see if there's a way that they can circumvent the security controls that you put in place. All of these things, when that firewall is configured properly, will help defend against it. Am I saying it's bulletproof? Am I saying it's 100%? No. Just like you had said about the MDR, just because the MDR starts throwing flares and alarms and telling you that there's a problem, doesn't mean that there's been data exfiltration, doesn't mean that you've had any data destruction. What sometimes, and hopefully all of the time it means, is that you catch it early enough in the event so that it's like somebody breaking into your house. Did they damage your front door? Yeah, maybe a little, but they walked in, the alarms go off, the sirens are blasting, the response team from the monitoring company has already called the police. They're on the way. Hopefully they're going to be there within, just a few minutes. And all of that noise and chaos gets that criminal to stop. And that's what you would expect out of any MDR. We're getting that criminal to stop before anything really bad happens. Peace of
Yes.
mind.
And when we see incidents that aren't covered, because when we talk about the gotcha and people want to worry about what those are, and rightfully so, the biggest thing that we see is delayed patching, and not by like 3 days. So as we talk about this, the average we're seeing is an 18-month delay in patching, which means that they're between 16 and 18 patches behind. And so as we think about from a partner perspective, particularly if you're wanting to use this as a solution to deliver to your customers, be mindful that this is the area where the most value can be derived, is understanding that this is how we end up not paying a claim, but not because we're trying to get around doing it, but because it's fundamentally behind in its software. And so that's something just to keep in mind when we're looking at what yields the best results from this program.
Yeah, when you talk about patching, I think a lot of organizations do a decent job when it comes to their workstations, their laptops, and their servers. Not all, but that seems to be the focus of where people are doing their patching. But when it comes to a firewall, it comes to a switch or a wireless access point, we think of security devices almost as a little bit like the Superman. They don't need anything. That's their job. They're going to take care of us. But we have to participate in this. And over the last 2 years, and a lot of the incidents and investigations that we have done on this side, we have found a lot of firewalls that are years behind on their patching. Sometimes out of sight, out of mind, it sits in this closet. You never really think about it. It's not telling you that there's a problem. It's not, trying to flash a red light at you. And even if it was sitting in a closet that probably nobody ever opens the door on. It's those type of things that we've got to get better at, making sure that we're taking care of the gear. I mean, look, if you didn't change the oil in your car, you just drove it every day, eventually that is going to cause you a problem. And that is maintenance, just like patching your firewall is maintenance.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on to what I think is our last slide. Let's talk about this warranty at a glance and the benefits. And we're going to just try to wrap this thing up and hopefully tell you something that you didn't know.
Yes. So as we look at the firewall specifically, we have $100,000 and $200,000 firewall. So as we were just talking about, for the standard firewall, and that's Gen 7 or later, that would be $50,000 per incident related to either a DDoS or unauthorized access, or both, if that's both of those happen at the same time. And then we have managed firewall. And with managed firewall, you get additional benefits, and that's of course because we have the ability to manage it more effectively and help support through different types of incidents. So that's the firewall piece. And then as we layer up to the MSS warranty, which includes MDR, we have both the $500,000 and $1 million warranty related to the firewall, and then MDR with cloud threat analytics, and then the $1 million comes with email security as well. And of course, as you can see, as we've been talking about, everything continues to increase in its financial benefit because we're continuing to add layers that reduce that risk substantially, because we're able to mitigate and understand those threats that are coming at you.
Yeah. So let me ask you one question, because I know that when we go through these phases of increasing the warranty, there does become a point in time where they can get kind of this low cost cybersecurity insurance. Where does that click in? Does that click in at the 100,000, the 500,000? Where do they start to qualify for that insurance?
Yes, at the $500,000 level, that's when we allow the access into the insurance program. And of course, the reason is because we understand now that there's appropriate defense in depth, where we're also managing some of those additional controls within that layer that enable us to provide much lower cost around the insurance program. So depending on revenue, we're seeing discounts of upwards of 50 to 60%, depending on the size and of the policy and size of the organization. But certainly we're able to provide savings often where we're able to support that increase in security posture, which is really what we're trying to do, is help create that total cost of ownership concept where there's a budget, but we can help shift those dollars around within the budget so that you can invest in the things that you manage and use every day.
I think that's a really good point that you bring up, is that we're not just looking for you to spend more money for the sake of spending more money. And this isn't for the sake of it. These are the right things to do. Having an MDR is basic fundamentals today, email security, basic fundamentals, but getting you the discounts so that it almost becomes a wash. If you were spending X with another provider and we can show you a way to get to this really great discounts that starts to offset the cost. I mean, that's a real win for our partners and it's a real win for our customers because they're maturing. Our partners are making more revenue. And just like everything, if you ever look at the Gartner Magic Quadrant and everything, everybody's trying to get to that upper right-hand corner. So we get you in the box with the $100,000 warranty. Follow our buy the EPSS, buy APSS, make sure that you've got it configured properly. If you want to take all the headache and hassle off your plates, go with our MPSS offering. Get that $200,000 warranty, but you will know that your patches are being done. You will know that your configurations are being audited, and you're going to get proof of life every month off that. But if you really want to mature and you really want to take the benefit of us just getting you in the game, move on over to that managed firewall, MDR, and cloud threat analytics. Get that $500,000 warranty and then find out just how much Cysurance can save you on your cybersecurity insurance. And just like everybody's trying to get to that upper right-hand quadrant, come on, let's take it to the million. Let's make it right. Let's really mature. Let's bring our partners up. Let's bring our customers up. And let's make this the best team effort ever. Kirsten, I've really appreciated our time today. I know we maybe went just a little bit long, but I think this was really helpful and useful information. If you had one thing that you'd like to give everybody kind of as your parting words, what would you tell them?
Don't forget the fundamentals. It still starts with the fundamentals.
I love that. Yes, I think everything in life, begins and ends with the fundamentals. Whether you are the greatest of all time at whatever sport it may be, the fundamentals always matter. And it matters is what we're doing in this cybersecurity world and trying to stay safe, stay secure, and keep our data ours. Kirsten, I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. This was an amazing opportunity to bring some more awareness to all of our partners. And you know what? Hopefully we'll get some good reviews on this and we can do it again.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much.